Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming today. And I'm looking very much forward to listening to Bryan, who I've known for a very long time, a dear friend, and we met in the early '80s, and we became fast friends when I traded him a work on paper for a car. And it was, at the moment, it felt like a great trade. The painting he has of mine hangs in his house for 50 years now, and his car died a year later. And how can you not be friends with somebody who's screwed you that badly? Anyway, I have more stories to tell about Bryan if you want. No, anyway, in all sincerity, I've known his work before I met him, and have followed him and enjoy the studio visits we have, the talks we have on art, et cetera, et cetera. He's unique. Really, among artists, sculptors, he's unique in that he does these works that appear on the surface to be entirely different from each other in a way. One handmade, hand-felt, physical in some way, and another incredibly delicate, abstract perfection, and it's this balancing act between the two is quite extraordinary, and maybe he'll talk a little bit about how the fuck he does that, because we all want to know. But anyway, I'm just so thrilled that he's here. I'm happy that he's in the show. If you haven't seen his piece, it's hanging on the wall on the mezzanine, a beautiful blue, purple abstract form that he'll talk about in detail. And anyway, so please start talking.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Well, I thought I would start with this photo that I took in the Sea of Cortez about 13, 14 years ago. I was in a kayak, and this area, the Sea of Cortez, is extremely deep, and it attracts the bigger whales. And so this was that magic moment, the expelling of the air and the intake of more air with this incredibly beautiful creature it was just a very magical moment. Everything about it was so memorable and kind of changed me about whales. We did a trip to Baja, and we did the Atlantic side and went to a lagoon where the gray whales go to have their babies, and we got to go in skiff boats and get close to those whales, the mothers and the babies. Is amazing. I have a photo at the end of that. Anyway, I mean, the piece that is upstairs is called Ceta-I, Ceta-I or II. And cetacean is a mammal, a marine mammal. So they breathe air, and they live in the oceans and navigate the oceans. And oddly enough, they started only 400 million years ago. They started as a little deer-shaped creature, land creature that started finding more opportunities in the water and found safe haven in the water. And a few hundred million years, these things change, evolution. And it's so incredible to think that these are related to us in a very specific way. This seems huger than, my God, I feel like I'm there. This is the Ceta-II, and I build these pieces almost like a model airplane. I kind of have all these different activities of making sculpture and making forms. This is my studio, and so you can see a larger version of the cetacean piece. And I did this whole series of kind of based on cetaceans. You know how lucky we are here in this area. Sag Harbor used to be a mecca of whaling, but we're happy that that's all outlawed and everybody's happy. And what they did around 7 years ago, they kind of put a restriction on companies that were netting all the menhadens and the bait fish, so there's more plentiful food sources, and we are getting more and more whales every year, and it's exhilarating to be on the beach here. We live near Beach Lane and Town Line Road, and to see the whales just enjoying a good meal, and everybody just stops in wonder, and these creatures are so magical. So that's where I thought I would just kind of explore the shape, the form, the movement, kind of the idea of them. They're social creatures. They communicate, they have songs, they have groups they do different types of social activities, and they do migrations, and everything is this connection with the planet is extraordinary. I'm going to be talking way too long here. And in my studio, I just like to have it as if, you know, it's all floating around, floating shapes, and they feel alive. You know, I'll show some earlier work to where it was more of the airship phenomenon, the Zeppelin or the dirigible, which dirigible is what you would say is a rigid structure, lighter than aircraft. And when I started making art, I just thought everything seemed so heavy. Everything seemed based on the phenomenon of like Richard Serra say, of the plates and of those pieces. And then earthworks became a real focus. I was looking at Smithson and Heiser and the way they interacted. I just was in awe, and how could I kind of find myself in kind of an abstract world, but there is this interaction of the planet and making forms. This piece is rosewood and a aqua resin, and to me it's just like this interaction between two forms, and the touch of two forms, the balance between their relationship. You can go where you want to go with it, or you can go nowhere with it, but you can, as you walk around, I mean, the whole thing that's frustrating about showing slides of sculpture is that I would say, but this other view is so important, and but this is what we have. And that big moon painting is, I did a whole series on the moons. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know, I just felt like I wouldn't join a school of sculpture. I would just kind of be an explorer. And kind of make these shapes, and this whole series, the Cetacean series, is about that balance, and what you see is, or what you make of it. It's funny that this show Arc, that rusted shape felt very much like an arc in the turbulent sea, and it kind of is very befitting of this show. That's the mini-me. I put the mini-me in everything. It just gives me a tangible kind of the imaginative person, the encounter. It kind of gives you another kind of spatial guidance of what could be. It could be, I mean, many times I would rather it even be larger. But so you can see there's the negative space is very important to me, that it activates the gravity in a way that when I feel like there's least resistance to gravity, it is uplifting, and that uplift is something that's throughout my work. And it's kind of, there's an intimacy about it all too. Sometimes it feels sexy, sometimes it feels like maternal. This is a show that I recently had in Italy, and a cetacean piece, the blue cetacean piece, and in the background there's a gold, that's more like the airship pieces that I was doing, and this is another kind of phase of that lifelong investigation of a cantilevered shape that you can fill in the space, or you can bring to it whatever you want to kind of imagine or see, or and this piece, fusiform, was the one, from the airships, it was really more engineering, more kind of architectonic in a way. It was really about, the airships were like ocean liners in the 30s. They really were futuristic. I mean, the reason that they more or less disappeared, not only as the Hindenburg kind of exploded and Nazi Germany puts a swastika on the Hindenburg, and then it exploded in New Jersey. But this piece was where I curved the spine and made it feel more organic and alive, and it became another thing. It's a fusiform is anything that is tapered. So fish are fusiforms, whales are fusiforms, worms, everything in nature there's a reference to the tapering at both ends. And for me, that was something that it completes the form. It it has its limitations, but it expands the space. That's built with the same way with spruce wood and with a synthetic fabric, and then gold leafing. Gold is so magical. All the metals I like to use, but gold has a very special presence. So that's the first piece. So that's when I was in Venice, California, and I thought, I'm making art, I'm kind of interacting and looking at all the other artists around, and I thought, I just want to close the door and make something and not let anybody see it yet, just like get to work building things. And it was always my fantasy of building, so I thought I'd build the ones, kind of like the wonders of the world. And so, this actually, I should show you this, is the Hindenburg was 800 feet long. The Empire State Building was, or is, but this was before the communication tower. It's like 1,200 feet long. And the design of the tower was designed for dirigibles to dock in New York City and the passengers get off at the Empire State Building, flying from Frankfurt to New York City. And they found that the wind shear coming off the building was too dangerous for it. They actually do have photos of an airship standing on vertically because of the wind shear. So, but when you think about that kind of imagination of design and the idea of travel, that it was quite a spectacular moment. And they were totally for peacetime because you could shoot these things out of the air with hardly anything. And then that same year, this is like mid-70s, I thought, okay, the Wall of China. It's kind of like there's Christo making the Valley Curtain, and Smithson making the spiral jetty, and all these things. I just thought, I'm just gonna play around and make stuff that addresses that, and it's almost and use any material available. The Wall of China, I worked in a foundry, so I could afford to cast my own sculpture, and took from National Geographic. I would find plans and prints at the library, Santa Monica Library. It was fun. And at the same time, this round potato shape is Phobos, which was at this same year, it was Nixon goes to China, and I think it was called I forget the name of the satellite, but it went to Mars and photographed Phobos. And I just thought, as an object, this thing is so incredible. So I thought, well, I'll make Phobos too. And so it was a lot of just making and stepping back and kind of being playful with the idea of sculpture. And you can see that just that relationship that you would have with a cantilevered object coming into space. Then I went from, this is a little bit out of focus, but I removed the building and just thought of these airships. And so that started me off on this whole kind of journey of making these forms that cantilever off the walls. The drawing is kind of I would make drawings and build them like a model airplane. I must say that when I was in college, I thought I wanted to be an architect, but I was more and more seduced by the art of the day. There were magazines like Avalanche and Art Forum, and I read them instead of the architectural magazines. And I decided to drop out of school and pursue a fantasy, and the fantasy was to work at NASA. So I get in my car, I drive to Cocoa Beach. The first place I go, I get a job as an engineer's aide. And so I was kind of like making paintings in my kitchen, rented a house with a couple other buddies, and I worked at NASA on the Apollo program for 2 years. And that was you have no idea how much fun that job was, because my responsibility was just to be like a gopher for engineers. I'd go out to Pad 37, take readings, and drive back, and everything was, this is computers were there in existence with mission control, but everything was, the drawings were drawn with ink on vellum that was packed with linen. So it was just like this amazing job that I looked forward to. Every day I would drive to the Cape. And so it really affected my work. And this is kind of another airship. That's a Whitney biennial. And you can see I started cutting into the shapes and having this kind of dialogue of what they could be, or the one thing you knew is that you're looking up, so it could be like orbital, or it could be flying, or you could be at the bottom of the sea and you're looking up at something. And that relationship was kind of exciting to me. And then I started thinking of stacking the shapes. These are kind of reversed forms, that the purple is the same as the yellow, except the other side. And I just love the way that this weightless feeling and looking up is always something. There's something about that, looking up at sculpture. Maybe it's at Bernini or Michelangelo, something really classic, that you're kind of encountering this awesome thing. And then I went to these shapes. They felt like, I call these pods, but it is like a migration. It can be anything you want, in a way. It can be the relationship of the colors and the materials and the kind of randomness of things, but the equality of things, and a pod of porpoise, back to the cetacean. I kept thinking that these were all about migration, and to migrate forms and to kind of encounter them in a space. This is in Philadelphia at the Comcast building. One World. This is One World Trade, where the towers were. It's the building that's there now, and they created, it's called the Sky Lobby. It's on the 64th floor, and they commissioned me to do a piece that would kind of be in this environment and kind of uplifting, and it's where it's not open to the public, which is unfortunate, but it's open to all the different companies that are in the building. This is Coenties Slip Park. It was commissioned by the Parks and Recreation Department in New York City and the New York City Arts Commission. And the reason they wanted a sculpture there was that Coenties Slip was this neighborhood in the 40s, 50s, and 60s that artists inhabited, and it was Agnes Martin, James Rosenquist, Ellsworth Kelly, Jack Youngerman, and it was the cheapest area in New York. You could get a loft floor for apparently for $65 a month, if you can believe that. And it was a very tight community, and there were, John Cage was around there, and Rauschenberg and Jasper were not that far off at a certain point. And then, with as time goes, everybody went in different directions, and they wanted a sculpture and a park that kind of commemorates the art of those artists. And one of the real finds was that these are 1964 World's Fair chairs that were in storage. And I was thrilled to have that kind of relationship, because the 64 World's Fair was something about streamlined and futuristic and everything that I adhere to in many ways. This is cast stainless steel and cast glass, and it's the real thing that excited me, though, is that Coenties Slip is mentioned on page 2 of Moby Dick, tying everything back around. And Melville wrote about, I was going to read it, but I'm not so good at that, about everybody coming to the East River and surrounding and coming to watch the ships coming in from all points of the world, and the whaling ships. And Melville sat right in this area. It used to be a slip. They filled the slips in. Slips were like, instead of docks out into the East River, which would be vulnerable to tides and storms and things like that, they would carve out slips that was better for docking and things. So you can imagine, like, Lower Manhattan in those days was so exciting that people were just watching for what the next ship would be. And it's still kind of exploring my form, with a slot. It's almost kind of goes from 1 point to 2 points. So all very simple, but that's the East River out there beyond the piece. This is Water Street, that huge building. And that's the piece from above, which when I saw that, I went, oh my God, it is a whale. It's like, I wasn't as subliminal, all of this. And I designed the glass paver. I cast all the glass in Shanghai, and designed the whole kind of plaza with the chairs. And it's there, still there. And then the airships started to kind of philosophically turning back to the point I was just thinking of return, and a form extends out, and then eventually, as life is, you return to the point again. It's kind of like, okay, there's something else about it, but it's up to you to kind of see within yourself or how that would interact with you. This is a show in New York in, I don't know, about 15 years ago. And you can see the form is kind of going up. This was post 9/11, and I always thought like building up and then dropping and then curving back up. It's almost like a root or a heart. It had many things, but again, you have to walk around these things. Every view has more to give, as far as I'm concerned. And these are the U-ships. The U-ship was that return, that U being universal in a way, or universe. I like to be metaphysical somehow, so it opens up ideas or pathways of kind of looking at an object. That's in my studio out here. And then this is the new work, which is based on an infinite continuation. It's almost like two U-ships in relationship as almost a Mobius, almost an infinite form. There's my little man, my mini-me. I have big aspirations for this piece. I'm working on a cast Corten steel piece at the foundry right now. It's 8 feet in dimensions. And the Corten would have this look. So you can see it's just the continuation of form, and it's you kind of can follow it where it takes you, and almost like music or dance. And this is a little baby. This is a baby, Pacific, the gray whale. The mother, you can see the mother below. The mothers will lift the baby up to the side of the skiff boat to socialize, seriously. And the guy was saying that, in the 70s when they put the restrictions on whaling, and there were the whales would not come near a boat or do any kind of interaction. And over time, that it's all this kind of friendly relationship, and this was just a magic moment of taking a picture right out of a little skiff boat with a baby looking you right in the face. That's it. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm available.
I was invited to start because I said, I always have many questions for Bryan. So, and I do. Bryan, when I look at the piece upstairs, for one thing, I just want to point out that the kids from Hampton's art camp made this very appropriate backdrop for you.
Totally. I was looking at that earlier.
Yeah. When I've gone through the show, if I'm talking to somebody about the work upstairs, and I get to yours, I always say, you could see it as so many different things, and I always see it as a whale that's disappearing into the wall, and I absolutely love that instead of because you've always done the smaller point coming out of the wall and then let the piece sort of unfold in the air before you, which is in itself magic, of course. But this one, I've always read it anyway, as the whale is like disappearing into the wall itself, which for me is an incredible sort of metaphysical statement. Is that at all the way you saw it?
Yes, as a matter of fact. I mean, I did a group of airships that were split in half, and one shape is going into the wall and one shape is coming out. They're called coming and going. And it is, like, even in the pod pieces, you can sense that some are traveling into the space of the wall, or coming out into your space. But that piece upstairs is definitely, it's not like the wall is solid. The wall is just like this.
Your wall isn't solid.
Yeah, it's just like it can continue. And that's what I want your interaction to be, is that possibility of what that form is actually doing.
Well, I love the generous animation of your work because it does allow for a lot of different reads. And one person that was looking at it, I said, you could think of it as a bird, kind of a bird form, which, as I was listening to you talk just now, I was thinking, kind of odd, considering your obsession with anti-gravity, flying, suspension, and weightlessness, as a sculptor, I might add, or emphasize, that you haven't done anything referencing birds per se that I know of. Am I wrong with this? I've just wondered if that ever crossed your mind.
Yeah, well, I'm obsessed with birds.
I kind of know that. He is obsessed with birds.
I've been photographing the birds in Wainscott. I say I'm working on a book called Wild in Wainscott. And the fly-through, the migrations, the amount of life and life forms, from turtles to the foxes to the turkeys to the this to that. And it's just like this wonderful, we're very lucky out here. Once the traffic kind of thins out. But yeah, I haven't done that. Well, I just thought that the airships really are birds in a way. I mean, they're kind of, they are a bird.
There should be a word for like a double entendre in visuals, where you're looking at, because I'm looking at the whale disappearing into the wall. That's my strongest reaction to the piece upstairs. But I think it also could be seen as a bird, like somehow unfurling pretty easily.
And that's, I allow that.
I think so.
Completely go with it. That's why they're little. I mean, that piece upstairs is more abstract than most of the other works. And I like it that way. I like it that you can kind of give it your own reference, your own kind of experience. And it is about life. It is about, it's about life.
All right, I'm going to give up this mic for other people with questions.
Okay.
Just a quick question. What year did you start doing this type?
The Empire State Building, that was,
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
well, the Empire State Building was way long ago. It's hard to comprehend, but it was 1974. The cetacean pieces were, I guess, 7 or 8 years ago, starting to think of kind of that fusy form. Was the spine was curving, and then it set off a whole other kind of characteristic of the shape, more like an animal. Oh, the waterfalls? Yeah, well, that was it. I've kind of like have the airships as a form and as an activity, and it's kind of throughout my career, I would find new ways of addressing an airship. It was also the waterfalls. Actually, from when I showed Hoover Dam, I kept thinking like the amount of pressure that a gravity dam has to hold, that Hoover Dam, what it has to hold back. I kept thinking of, Lake Mead as a shape that meets this wall of concrete. And so I went from lakes to waterfalls and kind of got very much into that for years and years. And recently I had a show in Aspen of, they're called spillways, and spillways are glacier waterfalls as the glaciers are melting. And it's more about their cast aluminum and their light. And there's a little bit of a statement about it, but they are kind of like forms of abstraction and nature. That's my source. Ooh.
This is amazing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the piece upstairs, it's very captivating that we can see through the surface and see the structure inside. And I don't remember that, it could be me, but I don't remember that as an aspect of the earlier works, the airships. And can you talk a little about how you decide on the structure? Are you like actually thinking about like a skeleton, or is it like, do you have like a tried and true like recipe for those? And also, why are you, like it's very beautiful and interesting. Is this like, why are you showing us now?
Well, it's just another way of addressing that form. I thought, if I was to cover it with a silver leaf, aluminum leaf, or gold, it has another kind of presence. It's reflective of light, and it kind of defies gravity in another way. But I do really enjoy using a material that you can see into the structure, because it's really, there are no real rules to make it. Everything, when I worked for NASA, what was really amazing to me is the beauty of engineering, that everything I looked at and worked on or whatever it's not about making something pretty. It's all about how that thing works and everything attaches. And I like the idea of the airships, that I reveal how everything works inside the piece, like you are looking at the skeletal engineering. But one doesn't outweigh the other. I just like exploring forms and different materials, and Yeah. Yeah. I would have, I mean, I got to walk around. I worked on the lunar module when I was at NASA, and it was made in Long Island, a Grumman aircraft. And then all of a sudden, all these engineers moved to Florida, and I'm working with them. And the beauty of that, of the lunar module, as it's almost like an insect shape, and it's ungangly. It's not kind of aerodynamic. It's just like this creature that you're walking around. It's very inspiring, just seeing all of that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, it's related to the last question and your answer, which was great. And it's, yeah, that besides the sculptural forms themselves, which are beautiful, like the materials that you use, the color and how they're reflective, some of them are so reflective, and it connects them to the whole environment. But the shadows are beautiful on the walls. And the images are gorgeous that you're presenting to us. I was going to say slides, but I don't think they're slides anymore. But yeah, is that intentional? Like, do you play with the light afterwards to create certain shadows?
My favorite light is, and most of, how'd that get there? How the heck did you do that? The best light source is the sun, and all the photos with the mini-me, I don't use lighting at all. I'll just use, and I'll wait for the time of day or the time of year, or all of a sudden the light is hitting things in a way that, that looks so great. So no lights, no lighting. And there are a few situations where the luxury of having a skylight over or somewhere near an airship piece that's all I want. Just that kind of, it's almost like a sundial too. The shadow will change throughout the day. And I am lucky enough to have a few pieces out there in the world that kind of interact with the sun. That's kind of winter light out here, western light. And the skylight in Venice, California, was just, I have to light things all the time, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it's almost better to have different light sources so the shadows kind of dissolve in a way and the piece has more presence that way. But, the sun is the best source of light for sculpture, that's for sure. Yeah? Oh. Yeah, here it comes.
Just to bring it back to you, that Grumman, there was Grumman, part of it on Long Wharf, and they worked on the lunar module right here.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Come full circle. Yeah, I'd never met anybody from New York or Long Island. I was born in Indiana, raised in Florida, and this fellow said, I got 100 engineers coming to the Cape, and we need engineers' aides. You think you can do it? And I'm going, yes, I can. I didn't know. And they were the nicest guys. And, they called me kid. I was like, 20? So it was a great group of people. Okay. Oh, we have one more.
Hi, Bryan. I love this. I love seeing your work and the journey. and I'm particularly responding to these most recent series. And I have a question about drawing. How much do you do drawing to discover, like this new?
I do a lot of drawing. It was the only way to make sculpture until that damn computer arrived. And, you know, to be analog is a gift in a way, but yeah, I always had to, I have to make a drawing to make an armature. If I'm making a waterfall, I'll make a armature drawing and do a mini-me drawing, and then I'll do a life-size drawing, and over the years, but it's a little bit less today, and I feel guilty for not being hands-on as much in the drawing, but there's plenty of time. Okay, is that?
Thank you, Bryan.
Thank you.
Thank you.